Is Dr. Jane Morgan. She's the executive director of the COVID task force at Piedmont Healthcare right here in Atlanta. Thank you for joining us. It seems that every day, more states are dropping the mask mandates. What are your thoughts on if it's too soon to be easing up on these safety protocols?
You know, one thing that's concerning, and I appreciate that question, is we are seeing cases dropping, but we have to remember that they are dropping from an extraordinarily high level. This has been the highest peak that we have seen in cases. And even though the cases are dropping, that means that they are still quite high. We are still in a very intense period of this pandemic, and we should not lose sight of that. One thing that we should maybe do is use this lull when cases are dropping to shore up our defenses, prepare our hospitals, improve ventilations in our schools and in our public buildings, and really prepare for what could be another variant coming. We have continued to chase these variants and chase the 8 ball. And perhaps we can use these lessons learned and prepare ourselves during this lull such that we can be ready and in a state of readiness with regard to our supplies. We've been caught with inadequate testing. We don't have a steady supply of medical therapeutics for our anti-COVID pills, for our monoclonal antibodies. Let's take these lessons learned during this lull and prepare for what could be another variant coming.
Thank you for that answer, because I hear everything you just said loud and clear. And it's funny, it's not really a lull, because I've heard doctors say that when this pandemic actually gets under control, we will have 10,000 or fewer daily new cases in the country. We still have several 100,000. We've had days this week when more than 2,000 people have died. So to your understanding, these states are lifting the mask mandates. What rationale are they using? You just said we're still in an intense period. Well, how come they're not feeling that way to the point that they're lifting such a critical mandate?
2 years into this pandemic, everyone is exhausted. And I know we've heard that before. And I think people are tired. But we have to remember, just because we say that it's over doesn't make it so. The virus isn't really listening. And so we have to really apply science. And instead of setting guidelines, instead of setting timelines, I would like to see us set guidelines, set metrics for what we need to meet as benchmarks to begin to roll back these measures such that everyone understands if you meet this benchmark, then you're able to do X. If you meet the next benchmark, then you're able to do Y. I don't want us to be caught in a situation where we begin to see the numbers continue to go up. Let's not forget, we are a global society. We have over 64 countries that have not even met the metric of 40% vaccination. We have Africa with 85% of the population unvaccinated. If you think that doesn't matter in the United States, remember Omicron was first sequenced in South Africa, and within a month, it was here in the United States. What happens in the rest of the world for a respiratory virus certainly is going to impact us. So I think we should absolutely use this period when cases are dropping to determine how we're going to behave and prepare for what could be an intense summer.
Yeah, Dr. Morgan, it is frustrating that we've had all this time and it still feels that every day a different decision is being made, and it's really confusing to people. And while those statewide mandates have been lifted in some cases, some places, schools are still requiring the masks. But throughout the pandemic, that has been something that's caused a lot of debate over whether or not kids should be wearing those masks in schools. Here's what some administrators and parents have to say about it.
We are all looking for that off-ramp, right? But the bottom line is we will work with science. We will work with the data.
I think it's giving people a false sense of security, but if that makes someone feel better, then that's their choice. But I don't feel like it should be forced on my child.
A sentiment growing.
So with all that being said, in your medical expertise, what are the different factors that need to be considered when it comes to lifting indoor mask mandates at businesses versus in a school, in a classroom?
Masks are our simplest and most effective tool. And we have learned that throughout 2 years of this pandemic. As these mask mandates are being dropped, I would advise keep your mask handy. Use judicious situational awareness and determine whether or not you're in a situation where a mask might be warranted. Are you indoors? Are you with people with unknown vaccination status? We all know now how to mitigate and control our surroundings, and then we should keep those masks as a part of that mitigation strategy. Keep them nearby. We have seen the peaks in these 5 surges generally occurring in winter and summer months when temperatures are at their most extreme and driving people indoors. And so as we see these case numbers dropping, remember, deaths are still on the increase. Deaths are a lagging indicator, and we cannot lose sight of that and become numb to the number of people who have died. We are almost at 1 million. Our case numbers now are higher. Even as these case numbers are dropping from Omicron, they are higher than they were in our alpha and beta surges. So let's not lose context of that and the fact that the Omicron variant, even though it caused less severe disease, it also made it incredibly more successful, and it was able to infect millions of people around the world. What that means in science is that it had millions of opportunities to replicate and mutate.
You know, you've given some sobering and science-based answers, and you know, I thank you for that. And I hear everything you're saying, but these states lifting these mandates and furthering the whole political debate in this country, I think undercuts what a medical professional like yourself is saying. The narrative now is that, hey, we're through it, all good, take the mask off. That's the message these states are sending. I think that's a hard narrative to overcome, even despite some of the facts that you laid out there. But those of us who are vaccinated and boosted, what is your best advice in terms of continuing to wear a mask?
Yeah, absolutely. If 27% of the country is boosted, that means you are up to date with your vaccines. We need to see that number much higher. If you have not received your second dose, if you are a Johnson & Johnson recipient, or your third dose of Moderna or Pfizer, please step forward to do that. That means you are not up to date with your COVID vaccines, just as your other vaccines, hepatitis, polio, chickenpox. So we absolutely want to make certain that you are as protected as possible, and that our country has protected its citizens as much as we can. We have absolutely fabulous therapeutics available. Let's take advantage of them. And then let's not forget just the simple tools that we have, like a mask. If you're in an area where mask mandates are being dropped, I would advise just to keep your mask handy. There may be situations where you are quite comfortable with your mask off. But if you are in a different situation, have your mask handy and feel comfortable to put it on to protect yourselves and those around you as we see these case numbers dropping.
Yeah.
All right, a lot of good facts.
Yeah, it's really not that hard to wear a mask. Even if the requirements are dropped, like you said, have it in your pocket, wear it in the grocery store if you're feeling that it's too crowded.
That's what I got from that. You're in the mall, the movie theater, the Walmart, whatever. Continue to have it on because you're in a place where you don't know everyone else's vaccination status, and we're still in the middle of this thing. We're not at the end of it, despite